Dr. Alan Wright stared at the monitor with tired eyes. For 6 hours he had been watching the same data stream, convinced that something was off. The research station on Europa wasn't glamorous. Just 12 scientists in a habitat built into the icy moon's surface, listening to the cosmos. "You're seeing patterns that aren't there," Lisa Kendrick said, handing him a steaming cup of coffee. Her red hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, dark circles under her eyes matching his own. "No, look at this region here." Alan pointed to a dark patch on the star map. "Every scan we direct at this area comes back with nothing. Not interference, not static. Nothing." Lisa leaned closer. "Equipment malfunction?" "That's what I thought too, but I've run 3 diagnostic cycles. The equipment is fine." The research station had been monitoring deep space for decades. It was humanity's farthest permanent listening post, built to detect signals from other civilizations. Instead, it had found something much stranger. Alan pulled up the historical data. "Look at these scans from 6 months ago. The region was normal then. Now it's just empty." "Empty space isn't exactly uncommon," Lisa said, but her voice lacked conviction. Alan shook his head. "This isn't empty space. Empty space still has cosmic background radiation, light from distant stars, gravitational effects. This area has nothing. It's like a hole in the universe." Lisa crossed her arms. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying something is absorbing everything we send its way. Light, radio waves, all of it." The station's director, Ben Harris, walked into the monitoring room. "Right, Kendrick, you two should have ended your shift hours ago." Alan waved him over. "Ben, you need to see this." The director studied the screen, his expression growing more serious by the second. "How large is the affected area?" "Currently, about the size of Mercury's orbit, but that's not the concerning part." Alan pulled up another image. "This is the same region 2 weeks ago. It was smaller." The 3 scientists stared at the comparison. The dark region had grown by nearly 15%. "It's expanding," Lisa whispered. Ben straightened up. "I'm calling Earth. This needs to go up the chain immediately." 3 days later, the Europa station was no longer alone in its discovery. Observatories across the solar system confirmed what Alan had found. The void, as it was now being called, was real and growing. In his small quarters, Alan recorded his observations in his personal log. Whatever this phenomenon is, it seems to defy known physics. It doesn't reflect, doesn't emit, doesn't interact in any way we can detect. It's as if a piece of the universe has been erased. A soft knock interrupted him. Lisa stood in his doorway, a data tablet in hand. "You should see this," she said, her face pale. "I ran some projections on the void's expansion rate." Alan took the tablet. The simulation showed the dark region growing, slowly at first, then faster. As it expanded, it engulfed star systems, entire galactic regions. "If it maintains this acceleration," he began, "it would reach our solar system in approximately 70 years. Lisa finished for him. Alan set the tablet down. "We need to understand what this is." "I've been thinking," Lisa said, sitting on the edge of his desk. "What if it's not a natural phenomenon? What if it's artificial?" Alan looked up sharply. "You mean created by something intelligent? We've been scanning for alien civilizations for a century. What if one found us first? What if this is their hello?" A chill ran through the room. The thought hung between them, both terrifying and exciting. "If you're right," Alan said slowly, "then we're not just observing something. We're being observed back." The station's alarm suddenly blared, the emergency lights casting an eerie red glow throughout the room. "What now?" Lisa muttered. Alan's computer pinged with an incoming message. He opened it and felt his blood run cold. "The void just changed course," he said. "It's heading directly toward the Proxima Centauri colony." The horizon cut through the darkness of space, its engines glowing blue against the black. Captain Noah. Bennett stood on the bridge, hands clasped behind his back as he stared at the main view screen. The void looked even more unsettling in person than it had in the briefings, a perfect absence like a hole torn in reality itself. "Status report," Noah said, his voice steady despite the unease he felt. "All systems nominal, Captain," replied First Officer Grace Miller. "We're maintaining safe distance at 5 million kilometers from the anomaly boundary." It had been 6 months since Dr. Wright's discovery on Europa. The void had consumed the research outpost on Proxima Centauri b, over 4,000 colonists vanishing without a trace. Now the Horizon, humanity's most advanced research vessel, had been sent to investigate. "Sensors are still showing nothing useful," reported Science Officer Jack Howard. "It's like trying to scan a black hole, except black holes at least have gravitational signatures. This thing has nothing." Noah nodded. "Continue the passive scans. No active probes yet." In the communications bay, Specialist Olivia Grant adjusted her headset. For 3 weeks, she had listened to nothing but static from the void. Today was different. "Captain," she called out, her fingers flying across her console. "I'm picking up something strange." Noah moved to her station. "Define strange, Specialist." "Patterns, sir. Coming from the void." Olivia's eyes never left her screen. "They're repeating in sequences of 7, then 13, then 11. Prime numbers," Jack said, moving to join them. "It could be random," Grace suggested. Olivia shook her head. "No, there's structure here. The patterns are becoming more complex." She looked up at the captain. "Sir, I think it's trying to communicate." Noah's decision was immediate. "Alert Earth, then begin analysis protocols." For the next 36 hours, the crew worked without rest. The Horizon's powerful computers processed the signals, searching for meaning in the void's patterns. "It's like it's learning our language by watching how we communicate," Olivia explained to the senior staff. "Each response becomes more sophisticated based on our transmissions." "Or it's luring us in," warned Security Chief Diane Foster. "We shouldn't assume friendly intent." Noah considered both perspectives. "Have we made any progress on translation, R.A.?" Nodded. "The AI translation matrix has identified some basic concepts. The void seems to recognize itself as an entity or collective. It refers to space as domain or territory." "Keep working," Noah ordered. "I want to understand what we're dealing with before we take any further action." 3 days later, Olivia burst onto the bridge, her face flushed with excitement. "Captain, we've got it. The translation matrix has decoded a complete message." The bridge crew gathered around the main screen as the message appeared. "We have always been here. You are trespassing." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. "Send a response," Noah said finally. "Explain that we mean no harm. We are explorers seeking knowledge and peaceful contact." The reply came faster than expected. "Knowledge is consumption. Your exploration disturbs the balance." Noah frowned. "Ask what they mean by consumption." Hours passed before the next message arrived. "To know is to absorb. To learn is to grow. Your kind spreads, takes, knows, becomes like us." Jack's face went pale. "Captain, I think it's saying that our expansion into space, our gathering of knowledge, it sees it as similar to what it does." "And what does it do?" Noah asked quietly. Based on what happened at Proxima Centauri, Jack didn't finish the thought. Noah made his decision. "Send one final message. Ask directly. What are its intentions toward humanity?" The void's response appeared on screen, chilling in its simplicity. "You will be known. You will be understood. You will be absorbed. This is inevitable." Noah turned to his communications officer. "Specialist Grant, send everything we've learned to Earth immediately. Highest priority." As the Horizon prepared to retreat from the void's boundary, Olivia noticed something on her console. "Captain," she said, her voice shaking. "The void is moving again, and it's accelerating. Toward us." Admiral Frank Porter stood before the curved table of the Interplanetary Council, his uniform pressed perfect, despite 3 days without sleep. Behind him, A giant screen showed the void's expansion, red markers indicating consumed territories. "Ladies and gentlemen of the council," Frank began, his voice grave. "The horizon barely escaped. Captain Bennett's report confirms our worst fears. The void is not just a natural phenomenon, it's intelligent, and it perceives humanity as a threat or a resource." The council chamber on Earth's moon was designed to be impressive. High ceilings, marble columns, the flags of all human colonies displayed proudly. Today, it felt more like a tomb. Representative Samantha Wells leaned forward, her silver hair catching the light. "Admiral, what exactly does Captain Bennett believe this entity wants from us?" The void's messages suggest it absorbs knowledge and civilizations. It seems to view our expansion into space as similar to its own consumption patterns. Frank paused. "In simple terms, it eats what it finds interesting." Murmurs spread through the chamber. "And we're interesting," Council Chair Patricia Morgan stated flatly. "Precisely," Frank nodded. "Our science team believes the void was drawn to our quantum communication network. Our technology caught its attention." General Eric Dawson stood up, his massive frame casting a shadow across the table. "The solution is clear. We establish a military presence along the boundary. Show this thing we won't be consumed without a fight." Samantha shook her head. "That's exactly what we shouldn't do. The void specifically told the horizon that our expansion disturbs it. More military presence might accelerate its aggression. So, we just surrender?" Eric's face reddened. "Hope it gets bored and goes away?" Patricia raised her hand for silence. "What options have your experts provided, Admiral?" Frank activated his tablet, projecting 3 plans onto the main screen. Option 1. Diplomatic approach. We attempt further communication, try to establish boundaries. Option 2. Containment. We deploy quantum resonators to create a barrier that might slow its advance. Option 3. Military deterrence, as General Dawson suggests. "And the chances of success for each?" Patricia asked. Frank's expression was grim. "Unknown. We're dealing with something beyond our understanding." The debate lasted for hours. Representatives from the outer colonies, those closest to the void's path, pushed for immediate evacuation. Inner system delegates favored research over action. Military advisors demanded a show of force. As the arguments grew heated, Science Advisor Dr. Helen Rogers finally spoke. Until now, she had been silent, studying data on her tablet. "The void is accelerating," she announced, her quiet voice somehow cutting through the noise. "At current rates, it will reach Saturn's orbit within 5 years." Silence fell over the room. Patricia looked around the table. "We need to vote. Now." The final tally showed a narrow majority in favor of General Dawson's military approach, with containment research as a parallel effort. "Let the record show the Council has authorized the establishment of defensive outposts along the void boundary," Patricia announced. "Admiral Porter, you will coordinate with General Dawson on deployment. Dr. Rogers, assemble your best scientists for the containment research." As the Council members filed out, Samantha caught up to Frank in the hallway. "This is a mistake," she said quietly. "The void explicitly warned against this." Frank sighed. "I know. But what choice do we have? Run and hide? That's not who we are." "Pride," Samantha murmured. "That's what this is. Human pride." 3 weeks later, the first defensive outposts were deployed. Massive stations with the latest weapons technology and observation equipment, they formed a thin line between human space and the expanding darkness. From his office on Lunar Command, Frank watched the deployment feeds. 20 outposts, over 5,000 personnel, the best technology humanity could produce. It should have felt like a triumph. Instead, he felt only dread. His comm unit beeped. "Admiral," came Patricia's voice. "The void has increased its expansion rate by 200% since the outpost went online." Frank closed his eyes. "It noticed us." "Yes," Patricia replied, "and it's coming faster now." Major Daniel Crawford checked the outpost systems for the 3rd time that hour. Outpost Sentinel-7 hung in space at the edge of humanity's territory, facing the approaching void. Through the viewport, he could see the perfect blackness, a hole in the universe where stars should be. "Status report," Daniel called out to his crew. Lieutenant Zoe Fisher looked up from her console. "All systems normal, sir. Void boundary holding at 1.2 million kilometers. No change in the last 6 hours." Daniel nodded, but the knot in his stomach wouldn't go away. For 3 weeks, they had watched the void, studied it, sent probes into it. None returned. "Sir," called Communications Officer Will Perry, "I'm getting some strange readings from the quantum link." Daniel moved to Will's station. Define strange. "Fluctuations in the signal, like something's interfering with it, but that should be impossible. Quantum links can't be intercepted." Before Daniel could respond, the lights flickered. "Emergency." Sirens blared. "What's happening?" Daniel demanded. "Unknown, sir." Zoe's fingers flew across her console. "The void boundary just jumped. It's now at 500,000 kilometers and accelerating." Daniel hit the station-wide comm. "All personnel to emergency stations. This is not a drill." He turned to his second-in-command. "Send an emergency transmission to command. Tell them." The words died in his throat as the viewport showed only blackness. The stars had vanished. The void had arrived. "Sir, the quantum link is—" Will's voice cut off as the darkness swept through the command center. Then there was nothing. Captain Laura Phillips stood on the bridge of the rescue ship, dauntless, staring at the empty space where Sentinel-7 should have been. "Scan again," she ordered, though she knew it was pointless. They had been scanning for hours. "Nothing, Captain," replied her science officer, Kyle Rivera. "No debris, no radiation, no distress beacon. It's like the outpost never existed." Laura felt cold. "What about the other outposts?" "We're still receiving signals from Sentinels 1 through 6 and 8 through 20, reported Communications Officer Rebecca Jordan. "But they're all reporting the same void acceleration that Sentinel-7 reported. Before we lost contact." "How many people were stationed there?" Laura asked quietly. 342, Kyle answered. Laura closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, her decision was made. "Set course for Earth. Maximum speed. We need to report this directly." Days later, the emergency council session was chaos. The loss of Sentinel-7 had been just the beginning. 3 more outposts had gone silent in the week since. Admiral Porter stood at the center of the storm. "The void is advancing faster than ever. Our defensive line has been breached in multiple sectors." General Dawson slammed his fist on the table. "We need to deploy the new pulse weapons. Hit this thing with everything we've got." "We tried weapons at Sentinel-12, Admiral Porter replied wearily. Before they went dark, they launched their entire arsenal into the void. It had no effect. Council Chair Patricia Morgan looked around the room. "Dr. Rogers, your assessment?" Dr. Helen Rogers connected her tablet to the main display. "This is a simulation based on all available data." The screen showed the void spreading like an ink stain across human territory. "At current acceleration rates, we have months, not years." From the back of the room, a voice spoke up. "It's learning from us." All heads turned to see a disheveled man in rumpled clothes. Scientist Kevin Russell had been working non-stop since the crisis began. "Each outpost we lose, the void grows faster," Kevin continued. "It's not destroying our outposts. It's absorbing them, learning from them. Every bit of technology, every piece of data we have there becomes part of it." A horrible silence fell over the room. "Are you saying," Patricia asked, "slowly, that we've been feeding it?" Kevin nodded grimly. "And with each feeding it grows stronger and hungrier. The more we fight, the faster it comes." Laura Phillips, invited to the council to report on Sentinel-7, felt a chill run down her spine. "Then what do we do?" Kevin's answer was simple and terrifying. "Stop giving it what it wants, or find something it wants more than us." Dr. George Harper stared at the holographic display, watching red dots vanish one after another. Each dot was a human outpost or colony. Each disappearance meant thousands of lives lost to the void. "How much time do we have?" asked Colonel Melissa Turner. She had been assigned to the hastily formed Void Containment Initiative 3 weeks ago. Her military uniform looked out of place among the scientists' lab coats. "At current rates?" George sighed. "The Void will reach Mars within 2 months." The initiative's headquarters on Luna Base had been buzzing with activity around the clock since its formation. The best minds from every human world worked together with a single purpose: find a way to stop the unstoppable. "The Council is demanding results," Melissa said. "We can't keep evacuating colonies. We're running out of places to put people." George removed his glasses and rubbed his tired eyes. "I think we might have something. It's not perfect, but it could buy us time." He led Melissa to a different section of the lab where Chief Engineer Paul Winters was adjusting a strange device. It looked like a silver sphere with hundreds of tiny antennae protruding from its surface. "This is a quantum resonator," George explained. "Paul's design, when activated, it creates a field that disrupts the void's ability to expand." Paul looked up from his work. "In theory, anyway. We've only tested it on microscopic samples of void material." "How did you get void material?" Melissa asked, surprised. "From the Dauntless," Paul replied. "Captain Phillips's ship picked up trace elements when they investigated Sentinel-7's disappearance." George continued. "We need to deploy thousands of these resonators in a network around our remaining territory. Together, they'll create a barrier, what we're calling the Prometheus Protocol." Melissa examined the device. "How long will the barrier last?" Paul hesitated. "That's the problem. The power requirements are massive. Each resonator needs its own fusion reactor. Even then, we're talking weeks, maybe a month." "A month could be enough time to evacuate Earth?" Melissa said quietly. George shook his head. "Evacuate to where? The void is expanding in all directions. No, we need to use that month to find a permanent solution." Melissa's comm unit beeped. "The Council has approved emergency production of the resonators," she announced after reading the message. "Every manufacturing facility in the system is being retooled starting now." For the next 3 weeks, humanity worked with single-minded purpose. Mining operations stripped asteroids and moons for raw materials. Factories ran day and night. Space. Crews worked in shifts to deploy the growing network of resonators. George barely slept, dividing his time between improving the resonators and searching for a more permanent solution. On the day the network was completed, he stood with Melissa and Paul in the control center, watching the final units come online. Activation in 3, 2, 1. Paul counted down. Across the display, blue lights flashed as thousands of resonators powered up simultaneously. A visible shimmering barrier formed at the edge of human space, separating the stars from the advancing void. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then the sensors confirmed what they could all see. The void's expansion had stopped. Cheers erupted throughout the control center. People hugged and cried. For the first time in months, hope returned. But Paul Winters wasn't celebrating. He stared at the power consumption readings with growing concern. "It's working harder than we calculated," he said to George. "The resonators are drawing more power than we expected." George quickly reviewed the data. "The void is pushing back? That shouldn't be possible." "How long will the barrier hold?" Melissa asked. Paul's expression was grim. "Days, not weeks." Meanwhile, in a classified lab beneath the lunar surface, weapons designer Amy Rodriguez worked alone. Her project was known to only a handful of people in the highest levels of government. On her workbench sat a device no larger than a coffee mug. Its official name was Stellar Collapse Engine. The scientists who refused to work on it had another name for it: Pandora. "Almost ready," Amy whispered to herself as she made final adjustments. "Let's see if the void can swallow a star." Outside her lab, the barrier flickered as the first resonators began to fail. The barrier failed at 3:17 Earth Standard Time. No alarm sounded. No dramatic explosions marked the moment. Instead, the monitors in Luna Base Command simply showed the resonator network winking out, one blue light after another like stars being extinguished. "What's happening?" demanded George, rushing to the main display. Paul's fingers flew across his console. "It's a cascade failure. One section overloaded, and the strain on neighboring sections is causing them to fail too." Colonel Turner grabbed the emergency comm. "All stations, the barrier is down. Repeat, the barrier is down. Execute emergency evacuation protocols immediately." But for many, the warning came too late. The void surged forward, no longer held back by the Prometheus protocol. It moved faster than before, as if angry at being restrained. The outer colonies fell first. Research stations, mining facilities, and military outposts disappeared in minutes. Then New Terra went dark. The colony world of New Terra had been humanity's greatest achievement. The first terraformed planet beyond Sol, home to over 8 million people. Scientists, farmers, engineers, children who had never seen Earth, all gone in the space of minutes. In her office on Luna Base, Dr. Julia Nichols watched the disaster unfold on her monitors. As head of the Quantum Communications Division, she had access to real-time data from across human space. What she saw made her blood run cold. "The void isn't expanding randomly," she whispered, plotting its movement on a separate screen. "It's following our quantum communication network. It's using our own technology as a roadmap." Her discovery came too late to save the colony of Ganymede, which vanished while she was still analyzing the data. Nearly 1 million more lives lost. On the military command ship Defiant, Fleet Admiral Warren Blake received the desperate transmissions from across the system. "Sir," his communications officer said, "Luna Base has confirmed that the void will reach Earth within 12 hours. Warren's face showed no emotion, though he felt a storm inside. "And the evacuation?" "Impossible to complete in time, sir. We can get maybe 30% of the population off planet." Warren closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, his decision was made. "Signal the Rodriguez team. Tell them to deploy the engine." His second-in-command, Captain Stacy Weber, stared at him in shock. "Sir, the stellar collapse engine hasn't completed testing." "And the Council explicitly ordered." "I know what they ordered," Warren cut her off. "And I know what will happen if we do nothing. Send the order." The stellar collapse engine had been transported to a drone ship positioned at the edge of Jupiter's orbit. When Amy Rodriguez received the activation codes, she hesitated only for a moment before entering the final sequence. "Engine deployed," she reported. "Approaching void boundary, detonation in 3 minutes." Leaders across the system watched their screens as the drone ship disappeared into the darkness. For almost 3 minutes, nothing happened. Then a new sun blazed in the sky where there had been only void. The engine had forced a fusion reaction in Jupiter's outer atmosphere, creating a controlled supernova. The explosion was magnificent, terrible, and powerful beyond comprehension. For one brief, hopeful moment, the void seemed to retreat from the blast. Then something impossible happened. The artificial star began to dim. The void wasn't being pushed back. It was absorbing the energy of the explosion, growing darker and larger than before. "My God," whispered Warren as he watched the data stream in. "We just fed it." The void's expansion accelerated dramatically. The outer planets, Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, disappeared one after another. Jupiter, or what remained of it after the engine's detonation, was next. On Luna Base, Julia Nichols made a final desperate discovery. She burst into the emergency council session, interrupting the panicked evacuation planning. "The quantum network," she shouted. "We need to shut down the entire quantum communication network. Now." Council chair Patricia Morgan stared at her. "What are you talking about?" "The void follows our network," Julia explained breathlessly. "It's how it finds us, how it moves so quickly between targets. If we shut it down, we might slow it down." "But that would leave Earth isolated," protested one of the counselors. "How would we coordinate evacuations?" Julia's answer was grim. "If we don't do this, there won't be anyone left to evacuate." The red dust of Mars swirled around the landing pads as the last evacuation ships took off. General Heather Mason watched them go, her face betraying none of the emotions churning inside her. That's the last civilian transport, General, reported her aide. Only military personnel remain on planet. Heather nodded. Begin final preparations. I want all defensive systems online within the hour. Mars had become humanity's last stand. With the quantum network shut down, conventional communications were slow and limited. Nobody knew exactly how many people had escaped Earth before the void consumed it. The estimates ranged from 50 million to 200 million, a fraction of Earth's population. In the underground command center beneath Olympus Base, the remains of humanity's military gathered to plan their final defense. The void has slowed since we shut down the quantum network, Heather explained to her assembled officers. But it's still advancing. Current projections show it reaching Mars in approximately 72 hours. The holographic display showed the solar system, with the void now encompassing everything from Earth inward to the Sun, and everything from Jupiter outward to the system edge. Only the region around Mars remained clear. "What's the point of fighting?" asked a tired colonel. "We've thrown everything we have at this thing. Nothing works." Heather's steel gaze silenced him. "We fight because that's what we do. Until the last human is gone, we fight." Science officer Ryan Cooper cleared his throat. A civilian specialist who had barely escaped Earth, he had been analyzing void data since arriving on Mars. "General, I might have something," he said quietly. All eyes turned to him. "I've been studying the void's patterns," Ryan continued. "Its behavior, its choices. There's something selective about it." "Explain," Heather ordered. Ryan activated his tablet, projecting a series of graphs. "The void doesn't consume everything equally. It bypassed several targets we would expect it to absorb, like the Neptune cloud colonies, yet it went directly for our research stations and military outposts." "It's targeting our strengths," someone suggested. "No," Ryan shook his head. "It's targeting what interests it. The void isn't hostile, it's curious. It absorbs what catches its attention and ignores what doesn't." Heather frowned. "You're suggesting we can bore it away?" "In a sense, yes." Ryan looked around the room. "Everything we've done so far has made us more interesting. Weapons, barriers, the stellar collapse engine. We keep showing it new things to absorb." A heavy silence fell over the command center as the implications sank in. "So what do we do?" Heather finally asked. "How do we make ourselves uninteresting to something that feeds on civilizations?" Ryan had no immediate answer. For the next 48 hours, the best remaining minds worked on the problem. Traditional defenses were prepared in parallel, though few believed they would work. With 20 hours remaining until the void reached Mars, Ryan Cooper burst into Heather's office. "I've got it," he said, breathing hard. "We don't need to fight it, we need to flood it with noise." Heather looked up from her battle plans. "What?" "The void is drawn to patterns, to complexity, to novelty," Ryan explained. "What if we overload it, send it so much information that nothing stands out as interesting?" "Like hiding a tree in a forest," Heather mused. "Exactly. We broadcast everything, our history, our science, our art, our failures, all at once in every direction. We make ourselves seem common, expected, predictable." Heather considered the idea. "And you think this will work?" Ryan's expression was somber. "I think it's the only thing we haven't tried." The general made her decision. "Do it." As the remaining hours ticked away, Mars became the center of the greatest broadcast in human history. Every transmitter, every satellite, every ship sent out continuous streams of data, not aimed at the void, but in all directions, filling the space around Mars with humanity's story. The void approached, its perfect darkness contrasting with the red planet's surface. Then, remarkably, it slowed. In the command center, all eyes watched the sensors. The void's edge hovered at the orbit of Phobos, Mars' outer moon. "It's working," someone whispered. For 6 tense hours, the void remained, static, neither advancing nor retreating. Humanity held its collective breath. Then, without warning, the void changed course. Instead of continuing toward Mars, it began moving laterally, heading out of the ecliptic plane of the solar system. "It's leaving," Ryan said in disbelief. "It's actually leaving," but Heather's expression remained grim. "No, it's found something more interesting than us." Engineer Bradley Foster hadn't slept in 3 days. His eyes were red-rimmed as he stared at the terminal in front of him. Around him, the remaining members of humanity's scientific community worked with quiet intensity. "The void has changed direction again," announced the monitoring officer. "It's heading toward the Sirius system now." Linguist Vanessa Price looked up from her workstation. "How long do we have?" "Before it reaches Sirius." "About 2 weeks at current speed." Bradley rubbed his eyes. "And how long before it comes back for us?" Nobody answered. Nobody needed to. The void's temporary distraction wouldn't last forever. Ryan Cooper's theory had proven correct. The void was drawn to the interesting, the complex, the novel. But that meant every advanced civilization in the galaxy was at risk. "We need to warn them," Vanessa said suddenly. Bradley turned to her. "Warn who?" "Everyone. Every civilization out there. They need to know what's coming and how to avoid it." The idea spread quickly through the command center. General Mason assembled her top advisors, scientists, and communication specialists. "Can we do it?" she asked. "Send a message that far?" Bradley nodded slowly. "We have the deep space arrays. With some modifications, we could broadcast across most of the galaxy, but it would take enormous power." "Use everything we have," Heather ordered. "This is more important than Mars now. This is about saving whoever's left out there." Over the next 72 hours, Bradley and his team worked to convert Mars's defensive systems into the most powerful broadcasting array humans had ever built. Meanwhile, Vanessa led the effort to craft the message itself. "It needs to be simple," she explained to her team. "Clear enough that any technologically advanced species can understand it, but comprehensive enough to explain the threat." The message they created became known as the Last Warning. It contained the complete history of humanity's encounter with the void, from Alan Wright's first discovery to the final stand at Mars. It explained in detail how the void was attracted to technological advancement, to curiosity, to the very qualities that defined intelligent life. Most importantly, it explained how to appear uninteresting to the void. "Stay small," Vanessa dictated as she finalized the message. "Stay quiet. Don't reach too far or learn too much too fast. Turn off your quantum networks. Limit your technological footprint. Appear ordinary to survive." On the morning of the broadcast, what remained of humanity's leadership gathered in the control center. Outside, the Martian sky looked normal. The void had moved beyond visual range, but everyone knew it would return. "Ready to transmit," Bradley reported. General Mason looked around the room at the tired faces of the last defenders of human civilization. "Send it," she ordered. The massive arrays powered up, drawing energy from every remaining source on Mars. The message beamed outward in all directions, encoded in over 50 different formats to maximize the chances of alien civilizations understanding it. For 3 days, the message repeated continuously. Every inhabited system within 500 light-years would receive it. Beyond that, the signal would weaken, but might still be detectable by advanced listening posts. On the 4th day, the void changed direction again. The monitors showed it moving back toward Sol. "It's coming back," Bradley said quietly. It wasn't distracted for long. Vanessa stood beside him, watching the display. "At least we tried." "We did more than try," General Mason corrected her. "We gave the rest of the galaxy a chance." As the void approached Mars once again, the last transmission was sent. Unlike the others, this one was short and personal. "This is humanity's final warning. We discovered what we called the void. We tried to study it. We tried to fight it. We failed. It isn't malevolent, it's simply curious, and what catches its interest is consumed. Do not attempt contact. Do not attempt study. Do not show technological advancement beyond your immediate needs. The void is drawn to knowledge, to expansion, to curiosity that mirrors its own. Our civilization is gone because we couldn't resist understanding. Learn from our end. Stay small. Stay quiet. Stay alive. As the message spread across the stars, countless civilizations received it. Some dismissed it as a hoax. Others heeded the warning immediately, shutting down their quantum networks and scaling back their technological footprints. On Mars, Bradley and Vanessa watched the voids approach hand in hand. "Do you think they'll listen?" he asked. Vanessa smiled sadly. "Some will, some won't. That's how intelligence works across the universe, I think." "At least we gave them a choice," Bradley said as the darkness began to envelop Mars. The void claimed its final victory over humanity. But spreading across the galaxy, the warning lived on, humanity's last gift to the stars.